You guys had questions about embryo adoption? I'm gonna answer them for you. Hey guys, since posting my I Have a Secret video and all the other vlogs with the embryo adoption stuff, I've gotten a lot of questions both on YouTube and privately about the embryo adoption and the process and stuff. So puppy. I wanted to come and do like an FAQ video for you guys just to have all the answers kind of in one place so that you don't have to kind of go through videos to find out if people ask the same thing and whatnot. And just to have all the information in one place. So please excuse the squeaking. Do you have to pick the loudest toy? Just got like a pulley toy. Why do you have to do this while I'm trying to film? Anyway, so I don't actually have the questions in front of me. I kind of just have like little headers so that way I can talk about a bunch of things. So just kind of give you all the information. So first off, embryo adoption versus embryo donation. So the way that I've read and I've listened to a couple podcasts, and the way I've heard them defined is that embryo adoption is more open, and that you tend to get the whole batch of embryos. So if there's, say, 5 embryos, you get all 5. And you also tend to go through an agency. The agency may or may not require a home study. It depends on the state and the agency. But that tends to be how embryo adoption happens. In our case, we did not, me and my donor, did not go through an agency. This is all done privately. So, but because it's open and I'm getting all her embryos, it's considered embryo adoption. Embryo donation, on the other hand, is done privately through the clinic and it's closed. So this tends to happen when couples have leftover embryos and with their clinic themselves, they decide to just donate to couples within their clinic. Whereas with embryo adoption, they could be from all over the country, from internationally or wherever. They tend, with donation, to be just within their clinic. It's closed, so they don't tend to know who has them. And the embryos also tend to get divided. So say they have 5 embryos in storage, 2 might go to one couple and 3 might go to another. Or if they have like 16, 2 might go to 8 different couples. So they tend to get divided up a lot more. But embryo adoption tends to be the more common route that people go these days. It's also, I believe, cheaper than embryo donation, but it depends on the agency. Agencies that require home studies tend to be cheaper than agencies that don't require them. But the problem with me is it's harder for me to get a home study done, especially because it's easier for me to save money living with my parents, and I can't have a home study done when living with my parents. So it will cost more in the long run if I had to move out just to get a home study done. The other thing is that with embryo adoption, there's often restrictions. Do you mind? Sorry about that. So embryo adoption tends to have more restrictions for families. So a lot of agencies require you to be Christian or require you to be married. Same-sex couples are usually excluded, and single women are often excluded as well. There are definitely some agencies out there that do allow single women and same-sex couples, but it's a lot more difficult. The ones that I was looking at, one was in California, one is in Florida. The one in Florida, I like the way they run better. But anyway, so whereas the embryo donation is through the clinic and there doesn't tend to be restrictions unless the couple placed restrictions on who they want their embryos to go to. So anyway, that's a quick definition of embryo adoption versus donation. For me, the terms are interchangeable. It doesn't really matter. I'm calling it embryo adoption just because that's what the definition kind of falls under, is embryo adoption for my case, because it's open and I'm getting her whole batch of embryos and whatnot. Anyway, so how I met the donor, how I found her, I did not find her. She contacted me. It's crazy because with social media and YouTube and whatnot, that the world just works differently now. So I was set on adoption. I was planning out my adoption path. I was going to be meeting with some agencies to just check out different programs and stuff. And then I got a message from her saying, hey, I have some embryos I want you to have. So It's amazing, amazing that there's people out there like that. And I feel very blessed to have her choose me. Out of all the people in the world she could have donated embryos, she chose me, which is an amazing blessing. So I feel really lucky for that. So I did not meet her. I don't know how. I think like Known Donor Registry sometimes has embryos, or people posting embryos. I'm sure there's websites out there. I was just looking at specifically embryo adoption agencies. And for me, going that route was more expensive because one, the costs in general are expensive. The exchange rate is expensive because I'm in Canada, so I'm paying, my money's Canadian. And then travel. Like the one in Florida, I would have had to make 2 trips and whatnot. So for me to do embryo adoption in the States, Canada's program sucks. I'm not even going to get into it, but Canada's program sucks. And so for me, I was not going to pursue embryo adoption because it wasn't worth it to me, because the cost was roughly the same as international adoption and for me, and I couldn't put my faith into 1 embryo hoping it works or 2 embryos hoping they work at that cost. Whereas now that we are doing it so privately, it is, or we're doing it privately, it is not that much more expensive, which I'll talk about later in the cost, or it is a lot less expensive, I should say. Some things about the embryos. I do not know the gender. They are not PGD tested or PGS tested. Pre-genetic testing usually happens for women who are older. My donor is in her early 30s, so not necessary to do it then. And the other reason people do pre-genetic testing is if they have a genetic disorder and they want to rule out that the baby will have it. So that is not an issue with my donor. So she didn't do PGS. As far as I know, she didn't do any pre-genetic screening or anything like that. And I will not do it because I don't care the gender. And there's no reason for me to think that either of the embryos are abnormal. Anyway, they are separate. They are frozen separately. I mentioned that in another video, but they are frozen separately, which is great because if they're frozen together, clinics often make you transfer them both. I will be transferring 1 at a time. It will end up more expensive because it's 2 trips, 2 transfers, all that if the first one fails, but I am not willing to risk twins. They are day 5 blastocysts, so they are good quality and everything like that. If one takes, what will end up happening with the second one is up to my donor. We have kind of discussed it, and she said she wants to donate to another person, so I will just, whoever she wants to donate to, I'll sign over the legal paperwork for it. To me, I don't care. I won't hold on to it because as soon as I have a baby in my arms, that's my baby. I'm done. I'm 1 and done. She's 1 and done. So she'll probably donate to another person. When will I transfer? I wanted to do November, but financially it's just not going to happen. Costs add up pretty quickly, which I'll talk about the costs in a minute, but it's crazy how fast costs add up, and with the exchange rate, things change quickly and are more expensive. So I want to do November, but it's looking more like January, possibly later than January. I wanted to have my due date before my 30th birthday. That was kind of my thing because I started this journey when I was 25. I wanted to have a kid before I was 25, but I started my journey at 25 and I would really like to have a kid before 30. But yeah, so for me, I would like to have it transferred before my kind of 4-year journey mark, which would be March, which would get me in before the end of the year. So hopefully January, February. It just depends on finances. So yeah, that's my goal. If I can get it done sooner, great. If not, whenever. Like, that's the great thing with once the legal paperwork is done, I just have to pay for storage, which is, I'll talk about in the cost a bit, but I just have to pay for storage. So it's not that big of a deal to have to hold on to them for a bit longer to try to build up finances. It's not like IVF where I'm like, oh, I have to get it done this time, and I'll talk about work in a minute, but it won't matter. So anyway, so yeah, I'll talk about work now. So my plan with the transfer is is to take time off of work. I'm hoping to go back to work in around September. Right now I am on unemployment, and just a quick overview on how that works is I don't have to take a job that's going to pay less than what unemployment pays me. So where I live, there's not many jobs that pay less or pay more than what unemployment pays me. So I look for jobs, but I don't actually have to accept any that is not going to pay me a good amount. So I am postpartum doulaing off and on here and there, and any money that I get from that, unfortunately, gets deducted from my unemployment. So I'm basically working for free as a postpartum doula, but I do enjoy it. So that's kind of like I have to claim it every time I make any money. So yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to work at probably a call center. They tend to pay more than minimum wage, and it's an easy job. It's a lazy job. So if I get pregnant, I don't have to worry about being on my feet. And also there are so many in this area that are always hiring. So that works out good for me, because come time for transfer, I want to take the full month off. So, or from start of cycle to end of cycle off, even though I'm not going to be traveling for that long. I plan on traveling just for 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, depending on how my finances, and my brother wants to come with me. So, we're going to make like a little mini vacation out of it. So it depends on what he can get off as well. Because he gets 2 weeks holidays, but depending on, when we go, he only works Monday, Tuesday at one job. The other job, he can take off as much time as he wants. So he has 2 weeks holidays with the job that he works Monday, Tuesday. So if we left, say, a Tuesday night, he would get basically almost 3 weeks off. So that would be good. So where was I going? Oh, so I'm going to go back to work, and then come time for transfer, I'm going to ask for a leave of absence. I'll probably have 2 weeks holidays, so I'll have the 2 weeks holidays, and then I'll ask for like a leave of absence for the other 2 weeks or whatever. If they say yes, great. If they say no, I'll quit, because it is really easy to get back in, either with the same employer or with a similar employer. There's a lot in this area that have fired people and rehired them, so I'm not concerned about getting another job. I would prefer just to have a leave of absence, so that way, right when I come back from the transfer, I can go back into work. And especially if it's successful, I can start building up more maternity leave hours. With the maternity leave here, I'm really blessed because I get a full year off. So it'll be really nice to have that time off. And then if wherever I'm working, when I go on maternity leave, if I want to return there, they have to give me my job back. So that's really good too, because I know I'm guaranteed a job. I am still currently working on my medical secretary diploma. So I'm taking 2 courses at a time right now. So it will take me 2 years total to finish it. If I want to take some extra courses, I can. But right now I'm just doing 2 years, 2 courses at a time over 2 years. It just makes more sense to do it like that way. And hopefully the embryo transfer works. So basically I'll be done. I'll finish my certificate right before my maternity leave runs out. So I'll probably start applying for medical secretary jobs after maternity leave, and get right into it. So that's kind of my plan with that. So for transferring, I will go down, like I said, for about 3 weeks. I'm traveling to her clinic because although I can have them shipped to me, I can have them shipped to a clinic in Canada. But then you're dealing with customs. But you're dealing with customs and stuff, which is frustrating. I could have them transferred to a clinic close to me that's in the States, because I'm on the border of the States. So I could do that, but now I have to deal with another clinic. I could also choose to do monitoring here and then fly down there just for the transfer. But the monitoring is expensive to have done remotely from here, whereas like in Canada, if you are doing IVF or frozen embryo transfer, monitoring is covered because the ultrasounds and stuff are covered by our provincial health care. But with doing it remotely, the clinic charges such a huge fee. So it's actually cheaper for me to go down there than to do that. Also with shipping the embryos, it's expensive, and they can die. So you x-ray an embryo, it's dead. You don't have it at the right temperature, it's dead. There's just too much risk involved. No. There's no reason I can't travel down there. And I think it is going to be less stressful for me to travel down there, because my closest clinic is an hour, just over an hour away, but they wouldn't take me because of my weight. So I don't know if they would even do a frozen embryo transfer at my weight or do monitoring at my weight. So my actual closest clinic is 2 hours away, the clinic I've been going to. And that's a long drive to be doing for monitoring. The monitoring is not as much as if you're doing IVF, but it's still a lot of driving. Whereas I can just travel down there, make a vacation out of it, relax, and I think that will in turn help the embryo transfer, because the more relaxed you are and the more calm you are, the better. And I would want to take the whole month off work anyway, so for me it just makes sense to go down there. I'm lucky because in the area she lives in, hotels are cheap, so it's not that bad. And also, like I said, my brother's probably going to come down with me. We're going to make a vacation out of it, and so he'll help me with the costs. Who will carry it? So I will be carrying it myself. A lot of people are asking if I would carry it or a surrogate would carry it. Surrogacy is way out of the question. It's just way too expensive. I will never do surrogacy. I wish I could, but financially it just isn't going to work out. It was different before when I had a friend that was going to be my surrogate, but yeah, that's not happening. So surrogacy is just too expensive. I will carry myself. I've mentioned in multiple videos how much I didn't want to be pregnant. And it's funny because this is actually the first time that I've actually been excited to be pregnant. Usually it's like, whatever. But I don't know, maybe it's because it's like adoption but without adopting. Like adopting, but I get to carry it. Maybe that's why I'm excited. Maybe it's because I've been around more pregnant people lately and just seeing how cool things are. I don't know. I'm actually getting excited about it. I think what really helps right now anyway is that I finished the testing and that my uterus is perfectly fine for carrying. Before, when I was told it was bicornuate, it was kind of devastating because not only did I not want to be pregnant to begin with, but now I'm being told basically my baby's going to be premature and it's going to be possibly breech and I'm going to have a C-section and all this fun stuff that went along with it. But now knowing that yes, it is bicornuate, but it's so mild that I could possibly have a vaginal delivery. There shouldn't be any complications. Baby will be full term as long as there's no other complications. There's just not that birth fears that I was having before. I mean, I'm sure things will come up and whatnot, but it's just different now that knowing that, okay, my uterus is healthy and my uterus can carry to term, because there's not that huge divide that I thought there was going to be, which would have been helpful if the first doctor actually gave me information as opposed to just telling me one piece of information and then letting me consult Dr. Google for the rest of it. So anyway, so I am actually starting to get excited about possibly being pregnant. I also want to wait till January because I want to try to lose more weight. I joined a gym. My mom and I went into a gym because she wanted to check it out, and somehow I ended up signing up. But I really want to lose more weight beforehand, so to give the baby the best chance as well. So anyway, I'm kind of getting excited now. And especially because they're embryos. They're like babies to me. It's not like this, oh, well, hopefully the egg and sperm will meet and hopefully I'll get pregnant kind of thing. It's not this endless month after month not being on Vizan, because with the Vizan, I'm a happier person. And it's not this like, oh, well, I hope I can get something out of IVF. It's not, it's totally different now. Even like before when I had stopped TTCing, it was the endless negatives that killed me. Whereas this, if it fails twice, I'm done. Not only can I not conceive with my own eggs, I can't conceive with an actual frozen embryo. That's not my genetic material. So, I just will go right to adoption after that. So it's like I'm going to have 2 embryo transfers and that's it. There's not this month after month of hoping, which was nice to have, but when you have endo, not only do you have the emotional pain of that negative, you have physical pain too. So it's a lot harder to keep going month after month when, especially now because I know how well the Vizan works for me, I'm constantly reminded how much I need to be on the Zan. So anyway, the being pregnant is not as daunting as I thought it was gonna be. And also, if I'm working at something simple like a call center, it will be an easier job than where I was before, where I was teaching and on my feet and in a physically demanding classroom and whatnot. Whereas here, I can kind of do a lazy job and just get through the pregnancy, and that's it. So yeah, which comes to cost. So basically, right now the lawyer was $500 US, which came up to just under 700 Canadian. So that's paid for already. Next cost will either be storage or transfer fees. Storage is 300 US, so I think it works out to be like 500 Canadian per year, which I know I'll definitely be paying for this year, because even if I transfer in January, I'll still have the second one that I want to hold on to until baby's born, because I'm holding on to both embryos, well, the one extra embryo, until I have a baby in my arms. So I'll have at least this year and probably next year that I'll pay for that, because I want her to have time, the donor, have time to find someone if she wants to transfer the other one. What else? So the embryo transfer cost. So I'm not sure the exact cost, because the donor gave me a quote for 4,200 US, which works out to be like 6,000 Canadian. But she's not sure with what it would cost me, because that was what she was quoted to by the clinic, and the clinic said they weren't sure what it would cost me though. So I'm roughly thinking 5,000 US, which is $1 bazillion Canadian. And then for the meds I'm calculating around 1,000 US. It's not that expensive for meds usually for a frozen embryo transfer. It's just mostly the progesterone and oil that costs the most. But I don't know what American costs are for meds. I can only go by, like, I've only found prices for Canadian meds. So, but I'll be getting the meds at the clinic in the States. So, depending, somehow I have a toy on me. Depending on med costs, I'm estimating around 1,000. But once I have the legal paperwork done, I'm going to contact the clinic directly and figure out an estimate from them, because they'll know more about what their average med cost is. So I have that, and then I have travel. So travel, I will drive there because she's less than 20 hours away from me, and because I'm going to be there for such a long time, I don't want to not have a vehicle. So I think it is a lot cheaper for me to have my car there and to drive down there than to fly and then have to either worry about a bus or rent a car. So I will drive down there. If my brother comes, it'll be even better because we can switch off driving. We will stop for one night on the way. So I think it's like 8 or 9 hours, and then we'll stop, and then 8 or 9 hours, something like that. So we'll stop once along the way, depending on weather, because if we go in January, yeah. Hopefully the weather is good, but we'll probably plan out to be a couple days early before I even have my first appointment at the clinic, just in case it takes us longer to get down there. So we'll have gas, which my car is very fuel efficient. It cost me $30 for 4 hours. So 8 hours will cost me $60. So it'll cost me $120 to get to there. So $240 round trip for gas, plus hotel, which, like I said, she lives in a area that is fairly cheap for hotels. So I think for 2 weeks it was going to cost like just over 1,000, I think, for 2 weeks. And if my brother's coming, he will split that with me. So between $500 and $1,000 for my hotel. Was that US? No, that was Canadian too, because I was looking at a Canadian website. So 500 to 1,000 Canadian for that. Plus my car takes will take 240 Canadian at our gas prices, which in the States, you guys have better gas prices, and it seems like the more south we go, the cheaper the gas is. So it might not even cost me that much in gas. So I'm budgeting around 1,500 Canadian for hotel and gas. And I would like to get a hotel that has a kitchenette in it. It might add to my hotel costs, obviously, but it will help keep my food costs down because we won't be eating takeout. We can cook during those 2 weeks. So that will be good. For those wondering, traveling with my brother, like how am I going to survive for 2 weeks? We have actually lived together in a hotel room for a month. I share the basement with him, and for the most part we get along, so I don't think it'll be much of an issue. And like I said, we shared a hotel room for a month before when I was teaching somewhere that paid for my lodging, and he came along. So it won't be a problem. And I'm hoping that we'll find some cool things to do in the area in order to like make a vacation out of it. Cheap things in the area. So with the frozen embryo transfer this way, it will cost me more if I have to transfer the second one because I'm paying again for travel. I'm paying again for meds. I'm paying again for the actual transfer. So basically, other than my lawyer fees, which were super cheap, everything else is going to be doubled. But if I take, say, like 8,000 Canadian and that's my cost for one transfer, that's 16,000 Canadian for 2 transfers, and 60% chance for each of those, roughly. Frozen embryo transfers tend to be pretty successful, especially day 5. Compared to, say, the 23,000 plus for adoption, or I think it was like 20,000 for embryo adoption in the States, for not including travel for some of the agencies. So, and that was like one-shot deal. There's one in California, but I don't really care for them, and they were, I think, 12,000 for 3 shots plus travel, which traveling out there would be more expensive because I would be flying and whatnot. But yeah, so this in general is pretty cost effective, and IVF would have cost me around 8,000-9,000 with med costs and whatnot, possibly even more depending on how much meds they had to give me. And my RE said he doesn't think I would get any embryos. So, and as it was, like, it was just a mess of, my eggs are a mess. But anyway, so I'd be paying, like, basically the cost of one frozen embryo transfer to have a shot at maybe 1 embryo. That was maybe genetically normal. That maybe might work. Like, there's just too many maybes. Whereas this is, the embryo's already there, it's already frozen, it's already ready to go, 60% chance roughly. So other than that, I think that's it for the costs. I think that's it for the questions. So right now, I'm still waiting for the donor to get back with the agreement. I don't want to rush her or anything like that. I am very bad for being, I don't know what a nice word would be, overbearing. I have an overwhelming personality where I tend to talk a lot and I tend to message people a lot, and I'm trying not to do that. She has the agreement. She knows what she needs to do. It's not the same as a birth mom where I have to tell her what to do. She knows what to do. So I'm trying to just step back and be patient and just let her do her thing. And when she's done, she's done. That's what I'm trying to do. In my head, it's not working so much, but I'm actually sticking with that. So that at this point, that's all I'm waiting for, is for her to do the agreement. And then I'll be able to do my part, which basically just sign my life away. I don't know if I have to get it notarized. If I have to get it notarized, that'll cost me, I think it's like $60 or $70 to have it notarized. But then they will legally be mine, and I can at least celebrate because I'll have 2 frozen babies in storage. So that's it for today, guys. Don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. If you have any more questions or comments, feel free to post them down below. Come along on this journey with me. Thank you guys so much for all your love and support. I was hesitant to post about anything because I was worried that things were going to fall through, but now I'm glad I did post because you guys are awesome. And I'm glad to have you guys on this journey with me. And social media is crazy because none of this would be happening without all this stuff going on with YouTube and all my other social medias. So thank you guys so much. I love you guys, and I shall talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.